And here's the best example. The Contras in Nicaragua, created by the CIA, legally funded by the US Congress, illegally funded by the Reagan administration via covert operation, for example, the Iran-Contra affair. Then comes the late 1970s, early 80s, and some groups successfully carry out the privatization of terrorism. So they gain independence from the sponsor and start funding themselves. Now, again, we see a mix of legal and illegal activities. So Arafat used to get a percentage of the smuggling of hashish from the Bekaa Valley, which is the valley between Lebanon and Syria, and the IRA, which controlled the private transportation system in Northern Ireland, did exactly the same thing. So every single time that somebody got into a taxi in Belfast without knowing, actually was funding the IRA. But the great change came, of course, with globalization and deregulation. This is when armed organizations were able to link up also financially with each other. But above all, they started to do serious business with the world of crime. And together, they money laundered their dirty business through the same channel. This is when we see the birth of the transnational armed organization, Al-Qaeda. This is an organization that can raise money cross-border, but also that is able to carry out attacks in more than one country. Now, deregulation also brought back rogue economics. So what is rogue economics? Rogue economics is a force which is constantly lurking in the background of history. It comes back at times of great transformation, globalization being one of those transformations. It is at these times in which politics actually loses control of the economy, and the economy becomes a rogue force working against us. It has happened before in history. It has happened with the fall of the Roman Empire. It has happened with the Industrial Revolution, and it actually happened again with the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now, I calculated how big was this international economic system composed by crime, terror, and the illegal economy before 9/11. And it is a staggering $1.5 trillion. It is trillion, it's not billions. This is about twice the GDP of the United Kingdom. Soon will be more, considering where this country is going. Now, until 9/11, the bulk of all this money flew into the US economy because the bulk of the money was denominated in US dollars and the money laundering was taking place inside the United States. The entry point, of course, of most of this money were the offshore facilities. So this was a vital injection of cash into the US economy. Now, when I went to look at the figures of the US money supply, the US money supply is the amount of dollars that the Federal Reserve prints every year in order to satisfy the increase in the demand for dollars, which of course reflects the growth of the economy. So when I went to look at those figures, I noted that since the late 1960s, a growing number of these dollars was actually leaving the United States, never to come back. These were money taken out in suitcases or in containers, in cash, of course. These were money taken out by criminals and money launderers. These were money taken out to fund the growth of the terror, illegal, and criminal economy. So you see, what is the relationship? The United States actually is a country that has the reserve currency of the world. What does it mean? That means that he has a privilege that other countries do not have. He can borrow against the total amount of dollars in circulation in the world. This privilege is called seigniorage. No other country can do that. All the other countries, for example, the United Kingdom, can borrow only against the amount of money in circulation inside its own borders. So here is the implication of the relationship between the world of crime, terror, and the legal economy and our economy. The US in the 1990s was borrowing against the growth of the terror, illegal and criminal economy. This is how close we are with this word. Now, this situation changed, of course, after 9/11, because George Bush launched the war on terror. Part of the war on terror was the introduction of the Patriot Act. Now, many of you know that the Patriot Act is a legislation that greatly reduces the liberties of Americans in order to protect them against terrorism. But there is a section of the Patriot Act which refers specifically to finance, and it is, in fact, an anti-money laundering legislation. What the Patriot Act did was to prohibit U.S. bank and U.S. registered foreign banks from doing any businesses with offshore facility. It closed that door between the money laundering in dollars and the U.S. economy. It also gave the U.S. monetary authorities the right to monitor any dollar transaction taking place anywhere in the world. Now, you can imagine what was the reaction of international finance and banking. All the bankers said to their clients, get out of the dollars and go and invest somewhere else. Now, the euro was a newly born currency, offered great opportunity for business and, of course, for investment. And this is what people did. Nobody wants the U.S. monetary authority to check their relationship, to monitor their relationship with their clientele. The same thing happened, of course, in the world of crime and terror. People simply, moved their money laundering activities away from the United States into Europe. Why did this happen? This happened because the Patriot Act was a unilateral legislation. It was introduced only in the United States, and it was introduced only for the US dollars. In Europe, a similar legislation was not introduced. So within 6 months, Europe became the epicenter of the money laundering activities of the world. So this is how incredible are the relationship between the world of crime and the world of terror and our own life. So why did I tell you this story? I told you this story because you must understand that there is a world that goes well beyond the headlines of the newspapers, including the personal relationship that you have with friends and family. You got to question everything that is told to you, including what I just told you today. This is the only way for you to step into the dark side and have a look at it. And believe me, it's going to be scary, it's going to be frightful, but it's going to enlighten you, and above all, it's not going to be boring.